are recording. Yes, we are. Okay, perfect. And hello, everybody. Wow, let me adjust my headroom. That should work. That should work better. Yes. Okay. Well, hello, everyone. Welcome into another episode of Matt Sports Talk. And if you were with me yesterday, I recapped everything on the women's side for the Crossroads League, and of course that's the only league that I do, or that's the only league that I do these daily game recaps for, as well as make the official season previews. And yesterday I talked about everything on the women's side. Today I'm going to talk everything on the men's side. And the first team on the men's side today that we are going to talk about is the Goshen College Maple Leafs. And if you're with me yesterday, I mentioned that I was going to do these official season previews a little bit differently, whereas we're going to start at the bottom and work our way up. There's 10 teams in the Crossroads League, so all these season previews, we're starting with the teams that I think are going to finish on the very bottom in last place, meaning 10th, on up to the teams that I think will finish closer to the top. And again, I'm going to try to keep these videos into 3 parts. And the first part talking about teams that I think are going to finish 10th to, they're going to finish 7th to 10th, starting with the 10th place team, and then part 2 talking about the teams that I think will finish 3rd to 6th, beginning with the 6th place team. And then the last part of the videos I'm going to be recording today we're going to talk about the teams that I think are going to finish 1st and 2nd, beginning with the team that I think will finish 2nd place, so you can kind of get the idea of where we're going in terms of the proper order. So we're going to look at the Maple Leafs for Goshen College first, and I'm once again using my iPad today to look at each team's records from last year as well as their rosters. Now, for the Maple Leafs last year, they struggled mightily, going just 5-23, 0-18 in the Crossroads League. Now, for contrast, the last time that the Maple Leafs of Goshen College, in terms of the men's team, the last time they won a conference game, you have to go all the way back into the 2022/2023 season. Now, in that particular season, the only conference game they won, and I'm going to look at that, the only conference game that they won was home against Taylor, January 26, 2023, a 72-65 win then. And ever since then, the Maple Leafs have gone winless in the conference. Now, one thing a little bit different this year, they do have a new head coach. His name is Dwight Jennerich, and he is also the new athletic director at Goshen College. And so looking at the Maple Leafs roster for this year, now, of course, I'm not going to go through each individual roster from last year, seeing how many players either graduated or transferred. But looking at the Maple Leafs roster this year, now they don't have the height of each player listed, so I'm just going to talk about the players. Junior, Brazil, Indiana, Braden Allen. Senior, Grand Blanc, Michigan, Jacob Carlson. Junior, Nogales, Mexico, Kevin Cota. Senior, Detroit, Michigan, Jacob Eiler. Junior, Joshua Gentry, and it looks like he is going to be a transfer. We don't know exactly from what school quite yet, but of course you can go to the Maple Leafs athletic website and click on men's basketball and then click on roster later on wherever Goshen uploads their official roster, which typically does not happen until closer toward the end of August into early September. So I would highly encourage you to check back at that time. Looking further down their list, Saltmore, Goshen, Indiana, Deacon Hill. Senior, Beirut, Lebanon, J.P. Jabor. Saltmore, Cassopolis, Michigan, Kenny May, who is a Saltmore. Junior, Bratislava, Slovakia, I stand corrected. Junior, I don't know how to pronounce this, Jarash Minarojek, and again, I apologize if I'm mispronouncing any of these names. Junior, South Bend, Indiana, Marcus Northern. Ashton Oviedo, Senior. Valasis Petrides, freshman. Freshman, Goshen, Indiana, Carson Smith. Junior, Caleb Thompson. We don't know where where he's transferring from, and then a senior from Cleveland, Ohio, Savion Williams. And then I mentioned Dwight Generich, first-year head coach, assistant coach Eric Bowen. And that is a look at the Maple Leafs roster. Now, based on that, on those predictions, they have a young team, and they do have some size this year, or will have some size like they did last year, but I don't see them being quite as competitive. I still have, now granted, I do see them winning a couple of conference games, maybe 1 or 2, maybe even 3 at the outside most. I don't see them winning any more conference games than 3, and I have them finishing in 10th place once again, going into this year, not making the postseason. And so our next team that we are going to look at is going to be the Marion Knights. And now for the Marion Knights, this is a team that had a first-year head coach last year. And I clicked on tapped on the wrong thing, so just give me a second to get back to their roster. Now, so this is a Marion Knights team that struggled last year. They had a first-year head coach, Pat Knight, who is the son of former NCAA Division I University of Indiana coach Bob Knight. And for the Knights, they struggled last year, and the one thing for them last year is that when you look at their schedule, they did not make the postseason. They came close, but they did pick up some really good wins last year. They went 11-17 overall, 5-13 in the Crossroads League. Now, they did pick up some excellent wins last year. Pardon me. But they also struggled with key injuries throughout the season, and that, of course, kind of hampered down their efforts in terms of winning more games. Now, had they not had all the injuries toward the end of the year, they probably would have won maybe 7, 8 conference games. So obviously, if they can keep everybody healthy this year, that's going to be a big positive step in their direction. And looking at the big wins they had last year, they won by 9 at Receiving Votes Indiana Tech, only lost by 1 point, 81-80 to Receiving Votes Rochester Christian, and they only lost by 2 to Receiving Votes Spring Arbor 76-74. And looking at their other games, and the biggest, well, a couple of big ones, but the all-time biggest one, I think, was upsetting then number 17 Huntington 78-76. That was at home, by the way, in Indianapolis. And then looking at their other key wins, they did get a massive win, not as massive as the Huntington win, but another massive win nonetheless. Receiving Votes Indiana Wesleyan at the time, Marion upset 78-71. And then looking at the other games on their schedule, they did not have any other wins outside of that, just narrowly missing out on the postseason, finishing in that number 9 spot. But they did graduate quite a few guys last year, most notably Jackson Ames, who was over 7 foot tall, a center, played really, really well, and losing some key players, obviously that's going to make a big difference down low. But looking at their roster this year, 5'10" freshman guard Selma, Indiana, Nate Luce, freshman New Albany, Indiana, 6'1" guard number 1 Joshua Renfro, returning sophomore Pendleton, Indiana, 6'8" forward Josiah Gustin, junior Greenfield, Indiana, 6'3" guard number 3 Dylan Moles, who absolutely played outstanding last year. 6'2" guard, a sophomore from Indianapolis, Indiana, transferring from NCAA Division II, University of Indianapolis, Ron Rutland III. Freshman, Indianapolis, Indiana, 6'9" forward Lamar Jones, number 10. Returning sophomore Jeffersonville, Indiana, 6'3" guard number 11 Noah Lovan, who played really, really well last year as well. Redshirt sophomore Brownsburg, Indiana, guard/forward, 6'3", number 13, El Hajj Dihallo. Junior Indianapolis, Indiana, 6'7", forward, number 15, Aaron Humphrey Jr. Redshirt junior transfer from Valparaiso University, guard/forward, 6'6", number 20, Luke Carroll. Sophomore Arcadia, Indiana, guard 5'11", number 21, Tillman Etchison. I'm sure the younger brother of Gus Etchison, former Marion Knight, graduated a couple of years ago, played outstanding under former coach Scott Hetty. For a 6'6" forward freshman, Bloomington, Indiana, number 22, Luke Lindemann. 6'8" freshman forward, Louisville, Kentucky, number 23, Blake Russell. Redshirt freshman Mishawaka, Indiana, 6'3" guard, number 24, Dominic Bonner. Redshirt junior Mayfield, Ohio, 6'6" guard, number 25, Hayden Nara. And finally, redshirt sophomore Muncie, Indiana, 6'3" guard, number 34, Aiden Franks, who played outstanding last year as well, hit some deep threes at just the right time in several key games. And that's the Knights roster this year. Now, looking at that, I really do think that this is going to be a team, a Marion Knights team that is going to, again, struggle, I think, in some games. They might win a couple of more, maybe one or two more conference games, but in my opinion, I once again have them just missing out on the playoffs, finishing in that number 9 spot, and barely missing out on the playoffs for the second straight season. But obviously anything can happen, and obviously we obviously don't know what to expect, but it's going to make things really interesting. Now, for the team finishing in that number 8 spot, I mentioned for the University of St. Francis, they don't have an updated roster / schedule available, but because of that, I'm not going to be doing a separate video talking about St. Francis men's basketball roster. Now, they did lose a ton of players from last year under head coach Chad Lacrosse, and I am going to do a separate video talking about their women's roster whenever that gets released, because there's a lot to talk about with their returning players and some of their new players as well, so stay tuned for that. But for the sake of this video, I'm going to... Now, St. Francis was a team that finished in that number 5 spot last year via a head-to-head tiebreaker with Indiana Wesleyan. The Wildcats, though, holding that common opponent tiebreaker because of getting a big win for the second time, beating Bethel, and St. Francis last year got swept by Bethel, so that's why the Wildcats got that common opponent tiebreaker versus the Cougars. And now, with all the players that Chad Lacrosse has lost, I'm going to make my official prediction. St. Francis men's basketball, I have them finishing in that number 8 spot, still making the playoffs, but maybe only winning 6, maybe 7 at maximum conference games. So I have them finishing in that number 8 spot. So looking at the team that I think is going to finish in that number 7 spot, we're going to talk about the Taylor Trojans next. And last year, they had a decent year under first-year head coach Austin Peters. They finished in that number 7 spot, 14-15 overall, 7-11 in the conference. They were really good at home at 9-5, but they really struggled on the road, going just 3-10. And they did have a lot of good wins last year in the Crossroads League. And looking at some of their schedules from last year, they did have a massive win at home Wednesday, January 8th against then number 22 Indiana Wesleyan, 79-76. The Trojans with the upset win there. And they also had another very impressive win, what almost was a massive win at home against then number 14 Huntington. The Trojans falling short in overtime, 92-84 in that one. The Trojans were up 6 points with 8 seconds left in regulation, and the Foresters hit some back-to-back threes that ended up tying the game and sending it into overtime. And the Trojans fell on the road at number 10 in the country, Bethel, in the first round of a tournament, since Bethel was the 2 seed and Taylor was the 7 seed. So they had some good wins last year, but they also struggled in some key games. Now, they don't have an official roster up this year, at least not quite yet, but I'm not going to do a separate video once they do release their roster this year. However, I know from looking on social media, they do have a couple of NCAA Division I transfers coming in this year. They got some really good size down low in terms of forwards for the low post. And now, again, they could win 1, maybe 2 more conference games, potentially getting that 9-9 mark in the conference. But I'm going to predict, once again, they will finish in that number 7 spot and be that number 7 seed going into the Crossroads League tournament. And that's why I have the Taylor Trojans finishing in that number 7 spot. So the next team that we are going to look at in the next video, the team that I think is going to finish 5th. Now, in the next video, we're going to be talking about the teams that are going to be finishing in that number 6, 5, and 4 spot, actually in the 6, 5, 4, and 3 spot in my next video, so make sure that you stay tuned for that. It's going to be good, I can tell you that, and we are going to be looking at that coming up here in just a second. So if you did enjoy this video, please either like, comment, or subscribe. Any one of those options helps me out greatly. Thanks so much for watching, and have a great rest of your day.